Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton of HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for the 29th of September 2016. Here's a look at Hurricane Matthew, designated as a hurricane in the last couple of hours in the eastern Caribbean Sea. It doesn't look like your classic hurricane structure. It's battling some southwesterly shear coming in and pushing some of those thunderstorm tops away from the low-level circulation. This will wax and wane over time. The shear is forecast to relax as it moves towards this area, and I expect that this will become a major hurricane simply because of the past and what I have seen with intensification forecasts and the very warm water that lies in its path. I think this will take advantage of that and become a Category 3 before making landfall in Cuba or Haiti or Jamaica, somewhere in this vicinity, over the next 5 days. Looking at a close-up visible satellite shot, you can see how the low-level center was fairly exposed earlier, right in here. But then in recent images, the convection, the deep thunderstorms boiling up into the atmosphere and covering the center better. And this is going to continue to strengthen more than likely as it moves off to the west, maybe just slightly south of due west over the next couple of days. And then once it gets over past the longitude of this peninsula here in Colombia, somewhere in this region is when I think it'll start to strengthen even more. The ocean heat content begins to increase pretty substantially. Now here is the forecast officially from the National Hurricane Center from 11 o'clock this morning, and the 5-day track. You can see that little dip off to the south and west, far enough north of the coast of South America here that I don't foresee too much in the way of impact for that region. And then the critical turn off to the northwest with time. Where does that happen? How close does this get to Jamaica? Right here, it's splitting right between the peninsula there off of Haiti and eastern Jamaica, making landfall over eastern Cuba, according to the latest information, based on the consensus models mainly, and the National Hurricane Center's expertise at analyzing everything. This is what we have, and you can see that the center has a chance of being anywhere within this cone over the next 5 days, and that error, the potential track error, increases with time, but more than likely it's going to be fairly close to the center line here. And as always, I remind you that the little black circles here represents the eye, or the center of the hurricane. This is not where the effects are. The effects are going to extend out something like that, and your hurricane force winds are going to probably be something like that. So, remember, it's not a dot on a map. This is plotting the center of the hurricane, and this is what the forecast track looks like. Now, I've been talking about this for a while, and it's really going to start to matter as Matthew heads towards this warmer upper ocean heat content area. And again, as a refresher, this simply means that the water is not warm only at the surface. That very warm water extends deep into the Caribbean Sea, and so there's just ample energy as indicated by these reds and whites, and that extends even on the other side of Cuba. Very warm water here in the Bahamas. Unfortunately, this looks like a problem for somewhere in the central Bahamas. Joaquin last year, Matthew this year, can't catch a break. It's just the way it is, and it's going to be a shame, depending on where this goes, close to where Joaquin was almost a year ago. Unbelievable coincidence, isn't it? So we'll have to watch that very closely. But this very warm water should provide the fuel for this to intensify significantly, and you just never know. With these systems, intensity forecasting is where the least amount of skill still lies. Now, I want to show you this before I get into the potential forecast down the road beyond 5 days. The anomalies, this is updated today. Departures from normal. Anything on the right-hand side of the scale is above normal, and left-hand side of the scale below normal. And when you're talking about the ocean and how much heat the oceans can store, that heat translates into energy. And when you see these reds up here and these oranges in the western Atlantic, and even out here in the main development region, but this season's pretty much over for now. It never really got going due to negative conditions there. So let's just focus on this area here and then even more so the water temperatures here in the western Atlantic between Bermuda and the east coast of the United States. They are running, in some cases, several degrees Celsius above normal. Some of these reds in here in the northwest Atlantic translate, looking down here, maybe 5 degrees, 4.5 to 5 degrees Celsius. We're talking 5, 6, 7 degrees Fahrenheit above the long-term average. Why does that matter? First of all, it will add more energy to the ocean that's normally not there this time of year. And secondly, it is my observation that when you have warmer water, you typically have a stronger ridge of high pressure over that warmer water. It tends to help build up that ridge a little longer. It holds it stronger. Not always the case. It's more of an observational thing that I've noticed over the years. And you typically get your troughs over the colder water, and your ridges like to build and maintain over the warmer water. So perhaps this warm water being so much warmer than it should be would help to keep this Bermuda high out here just a little bit stronger than it would normally be this time of year. And we can track that when it comes down to it. I'll try to pull up some of those maps soon showing you the atmosphere and its departures from normal, and we'll see if that's responding to the water temperatures. It's hard to tell if that's what's causing it, but you get anomalies in the atmosphere too. You have anomalous amounts of ridging and anomalous amounts of trough or low pressure. So it's just my hunch that this very warm water up here is going to play a role not only with the intensity but with the steering as well. Now, why am I showing you this instead of the Gulf of Mexico? I don't see how this goes into the Gulf right now unless there is a major track change. Is that still possible? I guess it's possible since it's still south and east of the Gulf of Mexico. But the global forecast system, the GFS in particular, has been very persistent with a track somewhere up into this region and maybe even offshore from there over the last several runs, maybe 2 or 3 days worth of runs now, model cycle after model cycle. So it's time to start looking at the water temperatures, the actual temperatures in the potential path. And I'll show you why I think this is going to be important in just a moment. So these are degrees Celsius, and these are actual temperatures. That's 29 Celsius, pretty fat area, Gulf Stream, etc. There's 29 Celsius. The wall of the Gulf Stream here, this is 28 degrees Celsius, roughly 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and the yellow would be 27 Celsius, or around 81. So water temperatures are very warm all the way up to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and then they cool off pretty dramatically here due to this longshore current pushing south along the extreme western edges of the Atlantic Basin here. So that would be good. If this were to track into that, it would start to lose intensity fairly quickly, because you really do need that warm water to keep these things going. There's no question about it. But we'll worry about north of 36 degrees latitude later. Right now, as I'm going to show you in the GFS, I am most concerned about this region and possibly even the tidewater. But this area, again, let's wait until tomorrow. And let me show you my thinking here. This is the latest GFS run from 12Z today, the morning run at the 500 millibar level of the atmosphere. The atmosphere has layers, and you've got the surface, you have 5,000 feet, all kinds of different layers, all the way up to the outflow layer at 200 millibars up near where the commercial airliners fly at cruising altitude. And so the atmosphere is made up of layers, and this is a good steering layer to look at, and you can also see the structure of the hurricane itself, which in this particular shot is still way down here. There's Matthew. I'll scroll down in just a moment so we can see everything. And this is the initial time. This is 0 hour, initialized today, the 29th, at 12 UTC, which is roughly 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So let's look at what the players are. There's the outline of the Big Bermuda High, or the subtropical ridge, as it's called. This is the trough, or the cutoff low, where the atmosphere is thinner. There's lower pressure in the upper atmosphere here, higher pressure, thicker atmosphere over here. So this is like a mountain, and this is like a big hole in the atmosphere, is another way to look at it. And so these are your major players. So let's scoot down just a little bit, and there's Matthew. What does that look like? Well, This is the vorticity signature of Matthew this morning. Healthy, developing hurricane, etc., in the Southeast Caribbean. So each frame is an hour out in time. And as you can see, moving through the frames, it has a little bit of a southwest motion headed towards South America, but not quite close enough, I think, to warrant too much concern. I mean, there's the northwest tip here of Colombia, and you've got the ABC Islands through here, far enough away that I don't think it'll be a problem. Now, where are we in time? This is 27 hours out, so roughly tomorrow late morning on Friday, so keep moving out. And you can see what happens. It's jogging along, and then you notice up here, this ridge starts to move and thin out, etc. The trough kind of acting on it. Everything changes all the time. It's evolving constantly. But what we want to see is, does this area, you see how the ridge up here disappears? It's a little bit thinner. And so it's not exerting as much force on this system to just keep it moving on to the west. This has thinned out a little bit. The pressure on Matthew has eased up a little bit. So it's not being pushed nearly as fast to the west. And so it slows down. And now we are at hour 41. And so we go through 42, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or so, 48 hours out. The ridge has thinned out just a little bit due to the trough coming in and eroded it, and it just, it waxes and wanes itself. Nothing's constant. So as we move on out into time, it kind of mills around down there because the steering flow all but collapses on it, and then off it starts to turn back towards the north and northwest. And as you see, it starts to approach Jamaica there. We're at 83 hours. This is valid Sunday, late Sunday evening, almost to Sunday night. And then there's the big ridge of high pressure trying to build back in over the western Atlantic. The trough energy is lifting out, and so the flow around everything is starting to turn more towards this little alleyway through here, and that's where Matthew should track, right up into that weakness. If this were to be real fat like that, for example, this would go way more west. If it extended even farther to the west like that, this would be barreling much closer to the Yucatan Peninsula, but it's not. And the alleyway for this to go into is up through here somewhere, not towards the Gulf of Mexico, and there's no big trough coming down this way to yank it out to sea. You can clearly see that as well as I can. So we move on through time, getting close to day 4 here, and that is a pretty close approach to Jamaica, right at 96 hours or so. Not too far off the eastern side of Jamaica there, and far enough away from Haiti. Still would have a pretty strong southerly flow, and these mountains through here would have some rainfall, unfortunately, and this is very flood prone. But you can also see there's the ridge out here holding its own. Again, a little bit of a dip in the atmosphere out here, lower pressure, not allowing this to grow back to the west even more, to send this right over Jamaica. Not yet. This is 4 days out. This could change, but the GFS has gone from bringing it north over the Dominican Republic, north over right across the border between there and Haiti, to Haiti itself, to the Windward Passage, to now very close to Jamaica in just the last few days. That is what we call a westward trend, no doubt about it. Going on out into time, making landfall here in southeast Cuba. There are some tall mountains in this region that will disrupt it pretty significantly from whatever intensity it is to, down to probably category 1 or 2 hurricane again. And now we're out roughly to day 5 here. And this is where I'll stop for the moment and we'll get our bearings. So a little bit of a weakness still sitting over here. You can tell that in the atmosphere, the leftovers of that troughingness kind of splits off from the main trough and upper level low. And then the ridge tries to build west. And folks, this is where it becomes very important. Not only for South Florida, which is still in play, as they say, but certainly the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. If this starts to build back more substantially and gets thicker in the atmosphere, then this starts to bend back more towards the west. It's possible that it could hook back towards Florida, but I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it in the GFS, and I'll show you the latest Euro as well. But this becomes a threat for the Carolinas. And just to show you out today, I guess I stopped it at day 5. I do want to show you day 6 here, so bear with me. Go back. So there was day 5. This is day 6, and here it is. Longitudinally speaking, it's just a hair south, and it's due south of Cape Lookout, basically, in North Carolina. And there's your ridge here trying to build back in. A little bit of trough energy still stuck down here. This is going to be as close as you can ask for. Very tricky day 6 here. And let's go on out to day 7. Go back. Yes, I know it's going to yell at me about document expired. So here's day 7. Very close to the North Carolina Outer Banks. And this is where, you know, the forecast errors are enough. Yeah, it could be on out to here between Bermuda, which is there, or it could be as far west as over Wilmington. It's hard to say. It's going to really come down to this ridge here and how fast Matthew does make this turn, because look, this is more energy coming, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's my opinion that if Matthew mills around down here, this trough here will get it, and it'll turn it pretty hard to the right, and it'll affect no one in the United States directly. But the Bahamas, yikes, looking like another hurricane, slow mover, and it's really going to come down to that speed, because the faster it gets up here, as this ridge builds back in, the more threat it is to the Carolina coast, specifically North Carolina, and possibly up here even into the tidewater of Virginia. This is a week out. A lot can change. Now this is the Euro from this morning's run at day 5. So this is the Euro at day 5. This is the GFS at day 5. The Euro a little bit farther south and east. The GFS a little bit more north and west. You see that? The Euro still has it tucked down here close to Haiti, and the GFS has it up here in the Bahamas. So yeah, you can tell. It's interesting. I will say this: the European model has trended more towards the west with time, closer to what the GFS is showing. So I think it's much less of a threat to the Gulf and lessening for Florida, possibly increasing for the east coast of the United States. And that's as much as I can show you. Beyond 7 days, it's just ridiculous, you know. And even showing day 6 and 7 has its risks, but I at least hopefully explained it to where you can understand. But the one thing that I have to take note of is the consistency of the GFS of this particular alleyway, not the particular end game. Oh, it makes landfall in Jacksonville, North Carolina, or Cape Hatteras, or it misses 20 miles to the east. Each particular deterministic run at this point doesn't matter. It's the consistency and the trends. And the consistency has absolutely been with the GFS, and the trend for the GFS has been slightly west overall. So we need to watch that very carefully. It goes without saying. All right, first up, of course, the Greater Antilles, maybe Jamaica, etc. I'll be keeping a close eye on it, and probably do another video late tonight just to update you on the evening model runs, etc. All right, well, that's it for me for today. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something from this, and it's going to be an interesting few days, that is for sure. I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, and we'll talk again later this evening.